Hey everybody, this is Pops Reviews and welcome. And I have we're doing a game summary of Marvel United. I'm going to do a slight little mini playthrough and review of Marvel United and my thoughts on the game. Now, this game is a game for 1 to 4 players. In future expansions, though, you will be able to play with 5 to 7 players. And this game is done by Simon Games with Spin Master Games as well. A game that's designed by Eric Lang and Andre Chirivicio. So hopefully I will go through this and you can decide if you want to get the core game as well as possibly the Kickstarter that is still ongoing for late pledges at the end of the month till July 30th, 2021, as this film is being recorded at this time period. So you could possibly get in if you want to, but this is a slight gameplay overview and summary review of the core box of Marvel United and my thoughts after on this game. Okay, so this will be essentially the basic setup of Marvel United. This game comes with 10 characters. You have 3 villains and 7 heroes to choose from, and each the game comes with as well as 8 locations. So the locations of the game will look like this here. So this is an example. So this is Times Square, and they'll tell you how many civilians and thugs to put at the start of the game, as well as there is a end of turn effect that is usually covered by a villain threat card. So in this case, at end of turn, you may rescue 1 civilian from this location at Times Square to benefit your heroes. So you will get 8 locations to choose from, and you'll choose 6 randomly. So all you would do is just shuffle them up together, and then you would put them down on the table, how it is designed here. So you'll have 6 areas, and then you could choose pretty much how you want to lay it out. Just as long as you have the places are adjacent for movement purposes, but you cannot, in this game, you cannot move diagonally across to like the other location. You can only move adjacent to your left and right locations. And you will choose from one of the 3 villains in the game. So in the game, now I also painted my miniatures for this game. So this is the Red Skull, how I painted him. So the villains will come in a red plastic. And the heroes, I believe they come in a blue plastic. So you can see from underneath what the plastics really look like. That's how the miniature will look like. But I painted mine. So I kept in the theme. I kept the villains with a red ring around them, so you're able to tell when you're fighting them on the board who is the villains. So this is how I painted my Red Skull. Now there's 3 villains in the game. There's Red Skull. There is Ultron. And the good thing about these miniatures is they have detailed bases as well. So it's not just a generic base. They'll have some sort of theme type base. So you have Ultron, and the last villain is Taskmaster. Comes with a sword and shield. So you'll have 3 villains to choose from, and then you'll have 7 heroes in the game. So one of the 7 heroes in the game, you have Wasp. So she's pretty cool. She has she's on her dice. So you have Wasp. You have Ant-Man. There's another cool hero. He's on a American quarter to show how small he is. So you have Ant-Man. You have Black Widow. Okay, and then you have Captain Marvel. She looks mad and ready to fight. And one thing about this game is they did it in the style of chibi figures, so they kind of look like childish, but I'll explain why maybe they possibly went that route. So here is the big Hulk. And again, these heroes come unpainted in the game, so I painted mine. Here's Iron Man. And last but not least, Captain America. Okay, so I will come back and I will tell you how this game exactly plays. Okay, so Marvel United plays as you will pick one out of the 7 heroes that you could play. As I said, with you could play this game single if you want. So 1 to 4 players for at least a Corebox maximum. If you play, you could play solo, and you could play with as many heroes up to 4. Depending on how many heroes you take, the villain will have how much health that the villain requires. So, for instance, we'll look at Ultron's card here. So it will show you on the side here of how many players the villain will have. So if you played a 2-player game, then Ultron would be at 4 health. If you play 3, at 8, and if you play at 4 players, 11. And then a card will tell you what Ultron's BAM effects will be when that goes off. So we'll go into that just a little later. And the overflow, if you cannot put civilians or thugs into a location on the board, what will happen? And we can go into that a little later as well. And then the villainous plot, if when all locations are fully occupied by civilian or thugs, the heroes lose. So this is for Ultron in particular. Each villain will be different, and that's one of the cool things of the game, that each villain actually feels different in the way they play. So, and the great thing also about this game as well is that you're able to kind of just plug and play who you want to be. So you could just choose, like, I want to be, in this case, Iron Man. So you'll have a set of cards for Iron Man, and then this figure that's on the board, and then you have Hulk has his set of cards, and Captain America has his set of cards as well. Now this game is really simple in the mechanics of the game, which actually makes it, for some people, it could be really good that it's a simplistic game. For others, they might feel it's a little too simplistic, but there is a lot of strategy involved in this game, or at least a lot of thinking of how you want to take down the villain. So what starts off the game is the villain will always go first. So the villain has his own set of cards. So if you draw a villain card, it'll show you his movement of what he does, and then shows that it's going in a clockwise manner. So you'll move the villain 3 around on this particular card, and then it'll show you if once he lands on a particular location, of how many civilians or thugs he's putting down. So in this case, he would be putting down 2 in his own location, and then 1 on adjacent locations. So the cards will tell you what the villain is doing, and then you're going to be doing what's called a timeline, where you play a card. So you'll play a card like this, and then after, a hero will then decide who wants to go first, and the heroes will draw up to 3 cards in their hands. So I'll just kind of show you what exactly could be drawn here. So I'll show you Iron Man. And let's say we have this. So let's say Iron Man drew these here. So he has one with a movement and a punch. Then he has one that's called a wild token, which you're able to use for movement, punch, or a heroic action. So I'll just draw another card. So this is a heroic symbol. So you could use the wild as any of those 3 symbols. And then you have a card that's almost like a special card for Iron Man. In this case, it's called Advanced Combat Analysis. So the text here, Iron Man would be able to use the text, and then the heroes, he'd also be able to use his own icon, but then the hero that comes after him will be able to get the benefit of the icon that was played before it. So I'll just kind of give you a brief showing of how that would work. So okay, so what will happen as well, so the villain will go first on their turns. They will draw a card. And the mission of the game is, you have in the middle here, you have these mission cards. So one will be defeat 9 thugs, or rescue 9 civilians, or clear 4 threats. Now, if you clear out 2 of these missions, then you unlock what's underneath them. So if you were, and you could clear them out in any order. It doesn't have to be in this particular order. You could clear them out in any order. So if you cleared out, say you defeated 9 thugs, then the villain will go after every 2 hero cards, as opposed to the timeline. And when you start, he actually goes after every 3 hero cards. So once you clear out a mission, then he starts to get kind of desperate, and he's going after every 2 hero cards you lay down. And then if you if you complete 2 missions, then now you're able to attack the villain. So during gameplay, if you have not unlocked 2 missions, then you cannot do any damage to the villain. You have to wait to complete at least 2 of these missions. And if you're able to clear out 3 missions, then you are able to draw an extra card for everybody who's playing. And we'll talk about the cards here in a second. So you will draw on your turn, you will draw, say you have 3 cards, and then you'll draw a 4th card on your turn. So then you start off in a space location here, like I said, across from the villain, and then you want to play a card that is beneficial to your area, as well as helping out the hero that comes next after you. So another thing I want to also talk about is the threat cards that the villain plays out. So each villain will have their own set of threat cards. There will be 6. So you will randomly place them down into each location. So you'll have some that actually, like, so for Red Skull, so a villain threat card for him will show his icon, so you know that belongs with the Red Skull cards. And then in this case, he has the villain Crossbones with him. And then he has a BAM effect, so whenever a BAM shows up on a card, then this will also go off. So, and this will tell you how much health it takes to take out Crossbones out of this location. So this here says to deal 2 damage to each hero in this location. Any hero can prevent this by taking 2 crisis tokens. So he's a character you don't necessarily want to be in his location in case a BAM goes off, because then you're taking 2 damage or having to take 2 crisis tokens. Then you also have cards that require, so this one here, for each thug in this location, requires 2 damage to be defeated. Now, earlier, like I said, you will be placing in locations, you'll have civilians and you'll have thugs. So you'll have those, you'll place those in their locations. They have a kind of faded area that tells you what is to be placed. So something like this here will show you that you'd have to place a civilian and 2 thugs at the start of the game. And then there's 4 slots for these guys to be in. And then you don't have to put them back into those slots. You could have a thug, say, over here and whatever here. Like, so it doesn't have to be what's labeled only at the start of the game. And then after that, once you're able to clear out these areas, then you could put whatever if the villain puts down more civilians or thugs. So that's one thing. So then going back to the threat card, so you have some will have villains on it that you might have to defeat. Others are kind of like schemes that the villain has. So usually a thug will cost 1 punch to try and take him out. A civilian will cost one of these star heroic tokens to rescue. So once you are able to punch a thug, you would just put him into the defeat thugs area, and that would be 1 out of the 9 that you would have to clear for the mission. If you rescue a civilian with a heroic, then you just put it onto the card like so, and then you'd have to rescue 8 more to complete the mission. So, and for these here that look like this, for these threats, for this particular one, you would have to play 3 heroic stars to get rid of this threat. And then that would be also put onto this card by one of these purple tokens that you would put here. And then you would have to clear 3 more threats to complete the mission for that. So, and then for this particular card, thugs required 2 damage to be defeated. So you don't want to get rid of this, because normally the thugs would only take 1 damage. So you have to kind of pay attention to what's on the board and what effects are going off into each area, and then you want to try and clear those areas out as best you can, so then you're able to get the benefit of the end of turn effects that might be able to help your heroes. So A turn would start off, like I said, where the villain would go first. So he would move 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then he would place down on the card some civilians. So you would look on the card. So then it would show you that there's 1 on the adjacent, 2 in his area, and 1 on the next adjacent square. So 1 here, 2 here, and then another one onto the Avengers Mansion. Okay, so that would start the villain's turn. And then if there was any BAM effects, they would go off, but that card didn't have any. And then a hero would play. So the hero, so I would say, I'm using Iron Man. So I would try and look to see what best helps Iron Man, as well as the next hero to go after me, which we'll say is Hulk. So I will play a card. So let's say I play a wild card. And I play that on what's called the timeline. So then the wild card, you could use it as a heroic action, a move action, or a punch action. So for Iron Man, this area that they're in is already filled with a lot of civilians and thugs, and then you have also crossbones here. So Iron Man could use that as a wild action. So he could say, I'll just take 1 off of crossbones. I'll punch crossbones in the face. So that would be 1. You take off 1 of his health, and then he would have 5 left out of his 6. So now that would be Iron Man's turn because he started first. And then the Hulk, let's say, would go after him. So the Hulk would say he draws 3 random cards, and this way, so you have 1 wild, and then another that has 2 wild tokens, which is probably the best card you could have. And you could also take these wild cards out to make the missions harder. So there's a difficulty setting that you can have with this game to make it easy or hard. And then, like I said, then there's the move and the punch icon. So maybe for Hulk, we'll say he places down this move and punch. Okay, so then the Hulk now, he gets the benefit of Iron Man's wild that he played before in the timeline. So then essentially he has a move, punch, and a wild. So let's say and he could do those in any order as well. So that's the beauty of this game, that you could do in any order the icons. So let's say he punches crossbones for another one. And then he might use another punch on crossbones, let's say, with his wild. And then he'd have a move action. So let's say he would move 1 over to Avengers Mansion to try and maybe clear that out a bit. And then you'd have the third hero go. So then you might have, so you have Captain America go. So let's say like this is his, and then he would draw an extra card on his turn. So let's say he had something like this, where he had 2 heroics, a movement, 2 punches, and 2 heroics. So Captain America, he's a character that has a lot of these heroics. Each character is kind of themed with what kind of symbols they have. So you'll have someone like Hulk that's more maybe punchy with more of these punch icons, but then Captain America has more heroic icons than Hulk. So you just have to kind of play with the different characters and kind of find out what kind of style you like. So let's say for Cap, you'd put down a double heroic in the timeline. So now Captain America has the benefit of what Hulk played. He doesn't get what Iron Man played, but he does get what the Hulk played before him. So he gets a move, a punch, and 2 heroics. So if we look back on the board here, we could see that the 2 heroics, he can't use it to clear a threat, because crossbones, you actually have to punch him. So the heroics he could actually use to rescue the civilians. So here he'd rescue 2 civilians. Excuse me. And then he could actually punch a thug for 1. And then he's able to move, say, to another location. So maybe he moves with Hulk to try and clear out this location. Excuse me. So then that's how essentially a round would play out, and then you'd go back to the villain. So here you would see the Red Skull would move for 4. So you would go from top to bottom of how you would do the effects. So essentially you would place it down on the timeline here. So then you'd go back to the board, and then Red Skull, you'd say he'd move him for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he would do his BAM. So on his thing, he has what's called a fear track. So he would move 2 according to what his BAM says. So his BAM says deal 1 damage to each hero in Red Skull's location. There isn't any. And then location increased the fear track by 2. So we did that. We increased the fear track by 2. And then if there are any other BAM effects in the threats areas, you would also do those. So Iron Man here would be taking 2 damage from crossbones, or you could take 2 crisis tokens. So in this game, you also will get other what are these pieces called here? You will get I'm kind of forgetting what they're called here, but you would get tokens that have different that come with the game. So you would have, say, like you have wild tokens, you have a movement token, you have heroic tokens and punch tokens. So you get a whole pool of those. You have your health tokens. Then there's also a token here for if a hero is not taking any damage a turn, you can put that in front of your hero, so then you're reminded that they're not taking any damage. And then you also get these crisis tokens, these exclamation mark tokens. So you get quite a few of these, and all I've done, I've just kind of stored them in plastic baggies to store them, because you don't really have a proper place to store them. So for this effect here, for crossbones, it says you could take 2 crisis tokens. So you could do that. You could take 2 of these crisis tokens to negate the damage that crossbones is doing to me. Or taking damage in this game, the heroes have their deck of cards. So if you have your 4 cards in your hand, taking damages would be losing 2 cards from your hand. So I would maybe want to lose this movement and 2 stars. So that kind of limits it limits what you're able to do on your turn. So that's how that would cripple the heroes, the damage that they take. And if you lose all your cards, then your hero gets knocked out essentially. So then you'd kind of lie him down, and then the villain would be able to do one of his BAM effects right away once a hero is knocked out. So to lose this game, the villain would have to do his villainous plot here. So if Red Skull reaches 20 on the fear track, then he would win. If he knocks out a hero and the hero is not able to play any cards on his turn, then the heroes would also lose that way as well. So and the game would just keep going on. So once you go back to that, the Red Skull will lay out more villains and whatnot. Then you would go back to the hero's turn. So you'd go back to Iron Man. So then Iron Man would get the benefit of what Captain America played, as well as the card he's going to play. And essentially, that's what you're just trying to do for this game. It's very very easy to play, very simple in its nature because of the icons, and you're just trying to essentially clear the areas of like either defeating thugs, rescuing civilians, clearing threats. And then hopefully eventually, if you've done enough of that, or you've cleared 2 of the missions out, then you're able to go after the villain himself and try and knock out the villain. And again, it's just being in the same square as the villain once you've cleared 2 threats, and then having punch icons on your card to try and knock out the villain. And that's essentially how you win, and that's essentially how you play Marvel United. So I will get back to you with my thoughts on this game and how I feel about it. Okay, so here's my final thoughts on Marvel United, and again, this is just me talking in terms of the Corebox, what I have and what I've played. And basically, this game is a great family-friendly game. I've played this game many times with my wife, my daughter-in-law, and my 6-year-old daughter, as well as my son as well, who is older. He's an older guy, but we love playing this game. It's easy to play. You can get this to the table, set it up nice and quick and easy, as opposed to some of the other games out there. And it's a cooperative game, and you're able to play this usually within half an hour. So it's great in that way, that it has a nice, quick, easy setup, and you can get it going, and you feel, if you defeat one of the villains, you feel great as a family that you've taken down a villain, and if you don't take him down, then you're easily could set the game back up within minutes and play it again within probably a half an hour. So that's one good aspect about this game, is that it has a short setup and playtime as opposed to some of the other games out there. As well as it comes with great miniatures. It is a cool mini or not game, a CMON game. So the minis that come with this game are just beautiful, and they were nice and easy to paint. If you are a painter, you will love painting these minis. And I found it took me probably about a month really to get them out, because I'm painting some other games as well. But these minis were great to paint, and they have good detail on them. So the minis are top notch. As well, the gameplay aspect of the game, I really like the gameplay. You do feel like a hero in a sense, in that your actions are helping the team and trying to help the next player that comes after you. So you have to be you have to keep in mind of what you're playing and how that helps your teammates. So it gives you that teammate aspect, like you are a team, you are the Avengers trying to take down Red Skull or Ultron or Taskmaster. And then the gameplay of it itself with just the icons is just, it's really awesome that these guys designed a game, and there's like really 3 to 4 different icons, I guess, including your wild that they've made, and you're able to do so much with them. It's really weird in that sense that you're able to do a lot with these 3 or 4 icons and tokens kind of thing. Like it's weird in that way. Another thing about this game too, and as far as what you get with the game, the card stock for these cards, they're not that great. They're a little flimsy. They're on the thin side. For me personally, I laminated them, so now it keeps good. It's it's a little heavier in stock, but it's a little lighter in the card stock. So I guess because it is a game that went to retail, they kind of maybe held back on that. And so that's one thing that you have to be wary of, I guess. But overall, as far as the gameplay is concerned, I mean, you do have 7 heroes, 3 villains. You have different modes that you could play. So the wild cards I was talking about before. You could take single wild cards out from the heroes, and that increases the difficulty. Or you could take the double ones out, or you could take both of these out and make it, and then it's called heroic. So then you're just playing with what the hero have in general, which is they have a 12 card deck. So then you'd be playing with 10 if you took out these 2 cards. So there's the good thing of scaling. You're able to scale the heroes, and as well. The villains the recommended villain to play out of the box is Red Skull. And we found that he was kind of tough in the beginning. We played him 5 straight times and lost. And then once we played him the 6th time, then we took him down. I think we kind of understood more of his characters that he had for threats, how he kind of played. And so we were able to take him down after our 5th try, and then after that we've been able to beat him. Sometimes he beats us, and I think that's a good thing, that when the game is able to also beat you, then it's a good game. You're not just always beating up on the game. And you do have the 3 different villains of Ultron and Taskmaster, so and they each play differently. They each have their own villainous plots that they're trying to achieve. So at least the villains as well play differently. They have a different feel to them. So that's good. As far as the core box, you're getting kind of a good sample of the 3 different villains, the 7 different heroes. The heroes also play differently. Each hero has their own set of icons that come with them. Some of the heroes have different abilities or powers that are unique to them. The one thing that we talk about with this game is, I guess it's because it's the core game. So some of the heroes in this box, in particular, Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, and even I'd say Black Widow, we feel like their powers are not they're good. They're just maybe one card or one power away from being who they should truly be in the game, or as they are in the comics. Um, it's 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 and it's a little frustrating because these guys are, the top of Marvel. You see them in the movies and stuff. So, and especially if you know what's with the Kickstarter, because this is originally a Kickstarter game. So if you see what comes with the rest of these guys, like they have the Spider-Man set, the Infinity Gauntlet, the Sinister Six, Black Panther, Wakanda, Thor, and you see the abilities that they have. It's kind of weird that it's almost like, why didn't they make Iron Man and Hulk just a little better, as well as Captain America and Black Widow. Uh, the villains too, the Ultron as well. I kind of felt a little slight underwhelmed because he's such a powerful villain in the Marvel universe, and he's only dealing one damage when he should be dealing two damage, as opposed to someone like Crossbones in the Red Skull's one of his threat cards. He's dealing two damage. So Ultron is a tough machine. So I feel too that he should have been maybe upgraded as well. But again, this is the core box. You're just kind of getting a sampling of how the game plays, and like I said, there are different expansions to this game if you want, but they're probably hard to get because you're having to go onto probably eBay and probably pay a lot of higher prices to try and get these expansions. So it's probably best if you're able to get the Kickstarter and able to get the expansions off there. It'd be a lot cheaper if you're able to do that. And this game is kind of begging for expansions, really, because you have the 7 heroes, 3 villains. You can only play that for a certain amount of time. The different difficulty levels, and then you're kind of wanting to play maybe a different hero or a different villain. So this game is really begging for expansions. You probably want to maybe at least get another 1 or 2 if you could afford it. And like I said, they did this last year. This Marvel United was Kickstarter. Now they're doing an X-Men Kickstarter that's currently, you could late pledge for it, and you have until the end of July 30th, 2021 to try and save up money and probably buy that for expansions. But I do recommend, if you were thinking about getting this game, if you weren't sure about it, that at least you could get it I bought this game from Walmart in Canada, and the Walmart in Canada, you do get the Wasp and Ant-Man figures. Especially, I think the Wasp, you did not get Wasp in the States. You get here in Canada. So luckily I live in Canada. I'm able to get the Wasp figure. In the States, they have a special edition one where you get Venom instead of the Wasp, which is, I don't know why they did that, because if you were to get the Kickstarter version, then you would be getting essentially 2 to 3 Venoms and not 1 Wasp, because Wasp comes with the core set of the Marvel United box. So I'm not sure why they did that, but luckily for me, I live in Canada, and I was able to get this for, at the time, $30 from Walmart, and able to get all the characters that I should be getting out of the core box. So that being said, actually, you could probably get the game probably even cheaper now at Walmart for probably around $20. So which is actually a pretty good deal. And so you're able to kind of test the game out, which I did test out before I actually went into the Kickstarter, and kind of played the game, and I saw that it was a nice, good flowing game. You're feeling very thematic. You feel like you're the superheroes. You're cooperating with your other friends and family, and you're trying to take down the villains. And I kind of thought it played very nice for how simple the game is. So, so that being said, like I said, you could buy this game, test it out, and you could try and see if it fits your type of gameplay. If I had to give this a rating, I would probably rate it just on the core box, probably 7.5 to 8. The 8 would be for the gameplay in itself, that it's a solid system that they have here, and just a simplistic system, but the choices that you make on your turn, it's very strategic, and how you're helping your other teammates. I would probably lean the 7.5 more towards what they could have done with the other characters of the game, like the Hulk and Captain America. They could have made them a little more like their characters. Like the Hulk, he has a Hulk smash card that's really good, but then he doesn't have a card maybe on his own to really like deal a lot of damage to like say like a villain or something. So I feel like he kind of got maybe a little slighted. Captain America, he could have benefited maybe from like a shield charge card or a shield throw. He's just kind of giving leadership, and I mean that's what Captain America does. But he also should have a card that benefits, like maybe throwing his shield into like another area and taking out a thug or something, or dealing one damage. So Iron Man maybe could have benefited from he could have benefited maybe from a unibeam effect where he's able to shoot maybe across the board into a different location and deal damage or something. Black Widow herself too, she probably could have benefited from. She also has like her Widow's sting that she could have used maybe, and maybe maybe for a turn she incapacitates one of these villains or something like that, so they don't deal any damage. So, and I mean these are effects too that are on other characters in the other expansions as well. So I don't see why they couldn't have done that. Another thing, these heroes are also chibi style, so that was kind of a turn off in the beginning for me. Like they look kind of kiddie-ish, but I think they were made that way for it being a family friendly game, as well as there is other games out there. Another miniature game called Marvel Crisis Protocol, where the heroes look more like their comic counterparts. They're more lifelike, I guess, in that sense. But then you're playing a game that's more of a skirmish game, more of an open area, moving around the board kind of thing. So I mean, and the characters, they probably feel more like the characters how they do in the comics. But then there's so much more bookkeeping, and you're bringing out measuring sticks and having to buy terrain. So there's that aspect. So you're having one game that's more of a family friendly aspect, and another game it might turn off from other people. Only it's only catered to a certain market of type players. So you do have the choices. There's also another game called Marvel Champions. That's a card game, and people love that card game. It's a 1 to 4 player game. Apparently the sweet spot for it is 2. If you play more than 2, then it could take a little longer. But to me, like I said, this game you're able to get the gist of the heroic theme, and it plays pretty quickly within 30 minutes. So it's really, really good. And essentially, you're just having to read a lot of what the card text or what the text on the threat cards of the villain says. But other than that, the flow goes really quickly, and you still feel like you're a hero and that you're able to take out a villain, and you still feel great at the end of it. So it's a game my family really likes right now. We've played it quite a bit. I've played it on the different modes. I've played all 3 different villains. I've played all 7 heroes, and it's a great game. It is really a good game. These guys designed a great game here. I hope maybe in future, with the certain characters, maybe they get upgrade cards or something. Or, in Marvel, there's so many different iterations of these characters. You could just, do another set on them or something. But other than that, I feel like this game is good. Like I said, it's probably a 7.5 to 8 for the core set. And once I get my other boxes, I have Marvel United X-Men coming, the core box for that in September, or in the fall at least. So maybe my ranking would be different once I have some different heroes and villains to fight against. And then the Kickstarter, it will take not till next year for me to get all the stuff that I pretty much invested in this game to come next year, and then play it out and see how it feels. But other than that, great game, great family game. Something you could play with your kids. Like I said, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she's able to play this game, and she loves being able to beat up on the Red Skull, with the last punch to knock him out. And that probably feels great for her, that she's able to contribute to the family, to the game, and knock out the villain. So other than that, yeah, this is a great game. And yes, very simplistic, very good. Miniatures are great. And yes, this is my review on Marvel United. And if you have any questions, comments about the game, if you want me to answer anything, I can. Just leave something in the comment section, and I'll try to answer you. And like I said, the best time to get on this is this month. You have a I don't know, there's a couple weeks probably left until the Kickstarter ends. So I suggest trying to get in on the Kickstarter and not probably go through eBay and you're paying these big prices on eBay to try and get this. And as well, like I said, also probably go to your Walmart or Target or whatever that has this game and maybe test play it before you probably buy it. So thanks again for watching. This is my review on Marvel United, and I thank you, and hopefully I will see you soon on another video soon.